Okay, if you own a Towncar or a Grand Marquis, loaded up Grand Marquis, it's only a matter of time until you're going to recognize what this is. That's the dash out of a 2005, but I think it's basically the same process from the that 90 to 97 series right through to 2011. However, I've only actually done it from the 97 and 2007 and now 2005. So if you're going to change the blend motor doors, there's 3 that are moderately difficult to access, 2 that are flat out impossible to access unless you pull the entire dash out and put it on your workbench. And one of those is this guy right here. That's the driver's side, and I don't actually know what it does. It flops the air around between these vents somehow, and that's how it works. And the other one that's impossible to get at is this little guy, which the light is so bad in here you can't see it, but there is one way back in there as well. To get at them, you take a host of little screws out here. You disassemble this whole dash assembly. You take the ducting to both side vents off, you take the duct to the face vents off, and eventually when you get it pretty well stripped to its bones, this son of a gun comes out, this square piece in the middle. There's actually 2 screws that you might miss on the other side in behind the radio. I don't know whether it's front or back. This is the front as it sits in the car, so back I guess, but in behind the radio there's 2 little screws that go in there. You need to get them out, and then you just start taking screws out until eventually it comes apart. This brace comes off, 1 screw there. This brace comes off, there's a screw up underneath there, and like I say, you take about 1 million little screws out and the whole thing comes apart. This box comes out, and then finally you can change these 2 motors. Now the reason I'm changing these motors is that on this old girl right here, I had a leaky heater core. I wasn't 100% sure it was the heater core. It occasionally would stink a little bit in the cab, and the coolant was going down, but I never actually found any coolant on the floor until I finally tore it apart and got right down on the bottom of the carpet on the passenger side. There was a little bit of wet. Anyway, I got the old heater core out last night. Of course, I didn't take any video. Sorry. But the reason I'm making this video is because there's a lot of bullshit on the internet. Surprise, surprise. If you look, they're going to tell you, just a minute, I'm going to pause this for a minute. Okay, if you look online, they're going to tell you that you got to take the entire, you got to take the entire wiper tray out, so that whole assembly eventually lifts out. You got to take this cab air intake tray out over here, and then eventually you get back into, whether you can actually see it or not, but the 2 hoses that feed the heater core back in there, and then you're only halfway there, because then they want you to take, there's some studs that come through the firewall, and there's supposed to be one over here in the corner, and there's several out in the middle, and there seems to be a great variety of opinions about where all these studs are located. And I started down that road. I had the wiper tray out completely, and I thought, well, I got it all tore apart. I'll just pull the dash out, do the blend motors at the same time, and I'll be able to see what I'm doing, which, as it turned out, I could. So we're going to pause again here for a minute. Okay, so I got in under the hood and got the wiper tray out, and of course everything's rusted, and the studs that you're supposed to take the nuts off of, they're twisting in the plastic because they come out of the back of the plastic in behind there, somewhere there and over there, and probably over here as well. I think I can see the heads of some of them, but most of them are buried in there, and that was a road to nowhere. Anyway, I'm inside here looking at this, and it turns out that behind that little shroud comes the 2 lines off of off of the engine, and they go into here, and the heater box is right in there. The core is inside there. So there's actually 4 screws that hold the halves of this heater box together. There's a little bit of nonsense on the front here for this ducting, which we'll talk about in a minute. But there's where's my finger here? Why can't we see my finger? Oh yeah, there it is. Okay, there's another screw. There's another one down underneath there. So I think to myself, well, let's just take that apart. So in order to do that, I peeled this foam back, and these ducts on the bottom are actually 2 separate pieces. This is one assembly and this is another. This one's pretty straightforward. I popped him out. And then this one, there's some screws that you can see. There's one down in there. There's a screw down here that holds this guy on. But it turns out there's another screw way down in there that I was unaware of. So anyway, after a while I got a little redneck, and I gave a mighty heave on this, and it came out, but I could tell it hadn't come out nicely. But all that happened was it broke a little plastic stud off. There's those mounting studs like this one right here, molded into the back of this thing. So no big deal. That's what hot glue was invented for. So I got that out, and then it's dead simple. You pop the cover off of the heater box, you take the hoses off up in the engine compartment, and you pull everything out. Now, the one other redneck piece is this guy right here, which is just a shroud. It's got one screw holding it on down in here somewhere, and it turns out it had a mount back in behind, but again, a little bit of redneck, and out it came in 2 pieces. And if you look really close, you can see the line there where I hot glued it back together, put it back together. So doing it this way, you have to take the dash out, but this is a 15-year-old car, probably got the original blend motors. It's not entirely, if the heater cores wore out, it's probably not a bad idea to change the blend motors at the same time anyway. So while I was in here, I changed the 2 that are in the dash. They were on the workbench, already looked at them. And I changed this guy here, which is right by the driver's knee, and you flat out can't even see him when the car's put together. These 2 over here I'm going to leave. This guy here, and then there's another one here directly behind the glove box. I've changed them before in the car. They're okay. They're not real simple, but it's possible to change them. But the 2 in the dash, forget about it. You can't change them. Somebody told me that if you pull the lighting control module, you can get at this guy over here and change him in the car, or without taking the dash out. But I don't want to learn how to do that, so I got it all apart. I got 3 new motors, and of course, Ford in their infinite genius, these little bodies are all identical. They're all the same, except that every goddamn one of them's got a different lever on it. So there's 5 different part numbers. There's 5 of the same motor, effectively, that plugs in the same connection. It's got the same configuration, except that they've got different actuator levers. So you need 5 different part numbers. That's about it.